And amid the nationwide internet blackout in Iran, the diaspora is now calling for global support. They say following a call by exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi on January 8, massive protests erupted across the country with crowds swelling and refusing to disperse. The diaspora urged international leaders to closely monitor the situation, warning that memories of the 2019 blackout and bloodshed make the current moment extremely dangerous, with renewed calls for protests again tonight. Take a look at that reaction.
Iranian diaspora here. We need your help. Let me tell you what is happening in the internet blackout in Iran. Right now, mainstream media like BBC are deliberately refusing to cover news on Iran uprisings. We need you to share far and wide. Yesterday, January 8, Iranians came to the streets following a direct call from our Prince Reza Pahlavi. Exactly 8 p.m. local time. People were sending videos that was showing a tsunami of people everywhere. The crowd was becoming bigger and bigger, and after a few hours, the regime panicked and followed its old playbook. It imposed a complete nationwide internet blackout. Apparently, they are even cutting phones too. We gotta urge Israel and the US President, Trump, Netanyahu, and Marco Rubio to monitor closely and consider targeted surgical strikes on besieged bases in each neighborhood. Israel have the intelligence and the tool and have already targeted some of them. We need them to finish them all.
We have Siddhant Mishra joining us on the broadcast. Siddhant, the nationwide blackout, cutting off of the internet, the telephone lines, isn't this a way for Iran to hide that violent crackdown that is right now happening in Iran?
Well, that's right, Kaveri. In fact, not the first time. Before this also, there were several protests which took place in Iran. The women protest, and in fact, there were other groups also protested in the past. But each time around, the Iranian regime did manage to stop them, to crush the protest. But this time around, it's massive. The scale is massive. In fact, the prominent cities of Iran, Mashhad, Kermanshah, Iran Sheher, Tehran, all these cities are witnessing massive protests, and these are businessmen, women groups, Reza Pahlavi supporters, students. They are coming out in large numbers from last 2 days and on the streets of these cities. In fact, many government buildings were attacked. The buildings were torched. Set ablaze. At various places, these protesters had confrontation with the Iranian forces, IRGC, and their paramilitary forces. The clashes have also been reported at several places in Iran. So more or less, situation remains fluid. It all started on 28th December when businessmen in Iran protested for the first time against the regime. Especially the poor condition of the economy, and from last about 10-12 days it is continuing. In fact, yesterday Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei addressed the nation. In fact, he said that he understands the problem of the common man, the economic crisis, etc. But those who are attacking the government buildings and doing rioting and arson are doing to please America and Israel. He clearly accused United States and Israel for the lawlessness in Iran. In fact, he also offered direct cash transfer to the Iranian people. So now Iranian government will be transferring $7 per month to every Iranian. Perhaps this is to calm the protesters and also to give them some kind of an assurance. So it's a direct cash transfer scheme which has been started by the Supreme Leader. In fact, he also assured people in Iran that at the highest level, the policy formulation is going on. The best officers have been deployed, to see how the economy can be revived, how country can be put back on track. So he said that he assured people that the steps are being taken. But from last 2 days, Kaveri, Thursday and Friday, after the call given by Reza Pahlavi, the protesters were on streets. There was internet blackout, arson, rioting in Tehran. And in fact, also very interestingly, Reza Pahlavi is going to be in Mar-a-Lago on Tuesday. So whether he'll be meeting President Trump or not, perhaps we don't have any confirmation on that. But he will be in Mar-a-Lago to attend an event.
But Shutdown, when we talk about these protests that are right now ongoing, what is the end game for Iran? A, are we looking at reform, any kind of reforms that we're talking about? Or are we talking about a long political standoff or ultimately the regime change?
Well, look, there have been several attempts in the past also to overthrow the Iranian regime. In fact, each time around, Iran accuses Israel and United States, CIA and Mossad to being involved in the regime change attempts, etc., etc. But if we talk about Iran, A, it's a very big country. B, the loyalty of the Iranian forces, IRGC, their paramilitary forces, is still with the supreme leader, with the government. And perhaps that is the reason that despite protests, dissent, anger against the government, these protests never got resulted in the regime change or change in leadership in Iran. But as I said before, Kaveri, this time it's massive. The scale is very different, and the pressure is mounting on the Iranian government.
Right, Siddhant, thank you for all of those information. Please keep tracking that.